All right, hello, welcome. This is episode 39 of So Well Spoken. I'm Moris. With me is Angelus.
Yo.
And Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Well, first, I wanted to say thanks to everyone who's listening. We've had like a pretty big uptick, like year over year, in subscribers and regular listeners. There are some people who have reached out and sent us messages, so extra thanks to you. Thanks to Shy and BCT, who's always pushing our new episodes. Angelus, you know a few people who are in touch with you, right?
Few local people who really do support us. They always push out our podcast to the people that they know, and in turn, they push out to people they know. And like as I said earlier, like I dead ass like drop little cards off everywhere I go about the podcast. So,
all right. So September 15th to October 15th is Hispanic Heritage Month.
mm-hmm.
And I mean, as a side note, iTunes didn't have any sort of spotlight on Hispanic podcasts, but that's a different topic. I actually want to talk about the difference between Latino and Hispanic, because a lot of people use them interchangeably.
Yeah,
Guilty.
And it's a giant mess, really. Latino typically describes someone in Latin America geographically, which means if you're from Spain or Portugal, you're out. You're not Latino. And then the term Hispanic refers to having Spanish origins, which means people from Spain would technically be Hispanic. People from Brazil would not be Hispanic because they were colonized by Portugal. And I think there was also a country in Africa that was colonized by Spain.
Really?
yes, I forgot the name of it though.
Yeah, they primarily speak Spanish, but I think only like 10% of those who do have like a mastery of the language.
Okay, so quick question. What about the Philippines, right? Were they was that like a Spanish empire, or was that, I'm thinking about something totally different? Because my history is like
No, yes, Spain went
okay.
there. Spain was all up in there.
I don't know how.
Yeah, for sure.
That's like weird. That's like a weird
so-
colonization right
Like
there.
their currency is the peso, man. Like,
Oh, okay.
Spain did a number
thoroughly
on
did a
them.
number on them.
Yeah, okay.
So you're not going to get any sort of clear answer. There's a guideline where they're not Latino. Spain, Portugal, technically not Latino. But Spain is Hispanic. If you're from Spain, you can say you're Hispanic, but in America, it kind of means its own thing as well. They're terms coined by Americans. So some of the Latin countries you go to won't even recognize those terms, and largely view them as terms that people from Latin America who live in America use. So while someone might see me as being Latino or Hispanic, and they could look just like me, you know, and they would not consider themselves Latino or Hispanic because they're not from America. So it's really dicey. And there's also Chicano, which fucks it up even more, which honestly I probably identify with more than the other two classifications. Is Chicano was created largely in response by Mexican youth. I think it's attributed to the youth in Chicago of Mexican Americans who didn't fully feel like they could relate to Spanish culture or American culture. They felt like they were in a bubble where they saw two worlds, and that's why they came up with Chicano. And then there's also a language barrier to this as well, because I guess on the west side of the United States, Latino is used way more frequently, and on the east it's Hispanic. I'm not sure if you guys could vouch for that, because I know you guys are closer to the east.
I have no clue, actually. I don't really pay attention when people use it.
Yeah, because I've read that it was more Latino was used more out west than out east, but I feel like it's used interchangeably pretty regularly.
I mean, it wouldn't shock me just given the fact that's the geological difference between the two.
Yeah, so if you don't know what to call someone, the best bet is to just ask. Because as far as I'm concerned, I don't really 100% identify with any term.
One thing I will say is don't call anybody Spanish, man. That's the worst. Like, oh God, oh, you're Spanish. Like, no.
Or just call anybody Mexican or something. It's like, yo, dog, no.
I mean, yeah, they're the equivalent, really.
Yeah, like Angelus is saying, calling someone Spanish is especially ignorant because by that logic, you would call Americans English.
Right.
Like, just because I speak that language, that doesn't make me that people.
Yeah.
Nationality and language kind of gets mixed up a lot because people think you're talking Brazilian or whatever. It's like, no, it's not. No, it's Portuguese. So it's like I think it's like a lot of general ignorance about and how to really just differentiate nationality, language, and different cultural like terms. I guess when it comes to that side of the world, it's kind of this. It seems like it's very hard to kind of just like really just get a grasp on if you don't really talk to anybody that's of those cultures, I feel like. So it's always kind of good to keep educated about those sort of things so you don't just step on anybody's toes and sound like a dumbass when you're talking to any of your friends or anybody that's Latino or Hispanic in your company or something like that.
I really hope that in the near future there's a better term.
There won't be.
Probably not.
We have way too many terms right now.
I mean, at the rate we're going anyway, like with Trump and the rise of white supremacy and nationalism, brown people will be the new thing. So have fun with that, Morris.
The sigh of just like I felt that.
Well, because I don't really like the term Latino because I've never been south of San Diego. So like the geographical aspect of that doesn't really fit me. And then I didn't grow up speaking Spanish at home. And I know a lot of people have a hang up with the term Hispanic because it directly links whatever country or culture you're from with the colonization of that country by Spain. So it rubs a lot of people the wrong way when like, oh yeah, you're that country that Spain went over and took over. That's essentially what that term means when you call someone Hispanic. Well, some people feel that way. It brings up a really shitty part of their history.
Yeah.
So we need everyone to brainstorm and come with a better term.
I don't think there's ever going to be one term that like satisfies everybody.
Nah, there's not. There's just too much. I mean, Latin America is incredibly diverse.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, this issue is largely because we're viewing the world through an American/Western lens. You know, they see Latin America like, okay, what is this group of people?
Sounds about right.
Where you wouldn't do that to like Europe. Like if Mexico was running shit, if they were the superpower of the world, there would be a single term for every European, and their more specific identity kind of wouldn't be viewed as.
I mean, that's
important.
How it really is with me already. Like, okay, you're a white person.
Exactly. Imagine if the government of the world's superpower was just a bunch of dudes like you. You go, yeah, those are just the white people.
I mean, they don't. Okay.
That's the issue, is that you're not in power and the white people are.
I mean, they have no racial identifiers that helps me like, oh, okay, yeah, you're German American. Like, I really actually want to start saying that kind of stuff to people, like, oh, no, you're German American, like putting their nationality first so they see what it feels like. You know, because like in America, the standard is if you're white, you're just American. And if you're anything else, it's where you're from or where they perceive you from, hyphen, you're American, you know?
Yeah.
Like African American. I've never seen that. Like, I've never been to Africa, bro. What are you talking about, you know? Like, I got friends who are Asian American. Like, some of them have never been to Asia. And just like, must be nice to be able to be like, oh, yeah, I'm just an American.
Yep, that's the burden of being brown in America.
And on the other hand, though, it's like there's that unique like point of solidarity that you can go by saying that you're African American. Like, we have a whole culture and we have this whole thing that, you know, we built because unfortunately we don't have, like, we can't trace our roots, you know, things like that. And so like it always cracks me up. Like I've actually had people come up to me like, "Oh yeah, like have you ever used ancestry.com?" I'm like, why? Why, my guy?" Like like on one side of my family, it pretty much ends at some point pretty quickly, and we won't know where we come from. And it's like I know where my dad's side is from, so it's like I don't need that, you know. So it's just like, yeah, I looked up on ancestry.com and I'm like 1/5 German, 1/5 Irish. I'm like, oh, that must be nice. Like, dope, bro. Like the rest of us don't have that privilege, and it's just like it's crazy that so many people are ignorant of that fact.
I'm not sure if I'd want it the other way though, to be honest.
It's a weird thing because like there are some days just like you would like I would imagine that a lot of people would like to know exactly like what part of Africa they're from, because like Africa's a damn continent, even though people think it's a country. And it would be kind of lit to know where your family and stuff like that came from before that they were taken over and put on a boat and chained and brought over to this other country and made to be freaking a slave and a broodmare for freaking white people. I digress. But we don't have that luxury, and I can definitely understand wanting to know specifically where they come from. And on the other hand, it's like I said earlier, we built this culture here in America, and like I don't think anybody can really even argue it, like Black African American culture is American culture. So like basically we made America what it is, and it's like we identify with that so much. And it's like I can understand someone who wants to learn more about themselves, and I can understand people who are like, I don't really, for lack of a better word, care. I'm just I'm African American. That's what I am, point blank, nothing more, nothing less.
That's where I kind of lean at towards. I don't really care too much about where I'm from too much. I don't think I ever really had that notion. I probably had like little inklings like, oh, I wonder if I was from like Nigeria or Niger or something like that. But other than that, it's kind of like, okay, now at this point, I don't care, because it honestly doesn't really matter anymore. I'm pretty much an American at this point. It's not like I have direct descendants, like I can go a few generations back and bam, they're in, this country or whatever. So it really doesn't have any ancestral meaning to me anymore to go back or to go that far back. Right now, I just have to focus on being an American, as hard as that is nowadays, and it always has been hard. It's me trying to form what it is to be Black in America, to be of African descent in America, instead of just being an African, because I'm not that, and I can understand. That's why I do understand why people do have problems. Black people have problems with the term African American. I just don't think they should just kind of push that on everybody. But I just, at this point in my life, I'm concentrating on being American and being a Black American, and being African American. I don't want to go too far back because I don't feel like it's too relevant to me now or to in my future family, at this point. I mean, my kids want to know, I'll help them out, but other than that, I just don't see the point. It doesn't really help me in any kind of way. And I already feel my connection to the motherland in some form or fashion, but I just can't just be too emotionally attached to it, because I'm not in any kind of way. So that's how I've always kind of leaned towards. But I definitely see why people would want to, and do I see why people would. So it's kind of a sad but weird thing that people that come to that conclusion simply because we were just taken from our actual home, and I'm sitting here just saying, oh, I really don't give a damn. But that's just the sad case of the fact of the matter is I just have no ties, no known ties to that history. So it's kind of hard for me to just care, It's kind of depressing now the more I talk about it, but it's just like, man, I'm that.
Well, I think that's a very typical American, really. Yeah.
I think a lot of Americans are removed from our history and our actual homes. That's what supposedly makes this place great, is the fact that there's so many people here. It's a melting pot. As much trouble and problem we have, the ideal of America is honestly the basic, what we try to impress as America to be, is what we want America to be, is a melting pot where all these cultures and all these nationalities and all these origins come together in one spot. that's dope as hell, because it's supposed to lead to us coming together as one. But at the same time, we honestly have to we haven't learned, or we've never had a chance to really learn how to deal with each other. That's the growing pains of the American ideal, in my opinion, is that we have to understand our differences to come together, and we don't do that because we're all trying to assimilate instead of just be unified through our diversity. So wow, I went to a whole different other place there.
Well, like you're saying about assimilating it, it's something that's not afforded to people of color. Like if your ancestors came from Sweden a generation or two, you're just American.
Right.
You're just some white man or woman who's American. But if, like, for instance, your parents came from like Cape Town, like from Africa, like straight up, like your dad has that African accent, it doesn't matter how many generations you go down, the American populace isn't going to see you as the like standard American, because you're always going to be black first.
Yeah.
So that's why, like, recently I've valued my heritage more, because I can never, for a lack of a better term, sell out and turn that in for some white privilege. Like, that's not something that's possible for me or my kids, really. Like, my kids are going to be as brown as I am, so they can't just like, oh yeah, we're not going to learn any of that shit, we're just going to be American, because they're going to learn real quick that they're not exactly what they think they are.
Yeah, that's like what Moris is saying. It's like one of the big things that I think a lot of people, they tend to forget about, is like, especially once you start they start accumulating money, they tend to forget that just because you have this, like, you are still seen as your skin color or your place of origin first before you're seen as American. And it doesn't matter how much you think you've quote unquote assimilated into the American culture. America is still largely, white, and so that's still seen as the default, and everything else is an amendment to it. It's like, oh yeah, you're American, but you're also, you're also African or Asian or Hispanic or Latino. Like, you're not ever just flat out American, and like if you ask somebody in the street, describing a typical American, chances are high they're going to describe somebody who is white. And, a lot of kids when they're young, like they're not acutely aware of that. And it doesn't become something that they're aware of until like, their cognitive awareness years. And all of a sudden, like they start to notice and realize that I'm actually being treated slightly different than, Brittany, the white girl over here, despite the fact we're just two people. Like they treat me a little bit differently, or Eric, things like that. And I think that especially for people who've born and raised here, the family was born here, like they've always been here in this country, it's a frustrating experience. And I think that because of that, many different many different cultures and groups of people, that's why they tend to stay together within their own instead of trying to assimilate, because really the assimilation in America is one way most of the time. It's mostly, for just to be blunt about it, it's mostly whites coming in and pouring in and taking over their culture and turning into that nebulous American culture, in which it's taken and it's repackaged so that everybody can share it. And it's like, at the very same time, you're still not seen as an American, even though they're using your culture and things like that, you're still not seen as like just a plain old American. You're still seen as a hyphen American. And I think that's why many, groups of people are always frustrated with, things like culture appropriation, things like that, because it's like you take, but you don't acknowledge, I guess would be the best way to say it. Like, I remember my neighbors back when I was growing up in South Carolina, like, towards the end of my high school, like they were one of those, we're all the same, we're all one race, things like that. And like they were half German, half black, they're twins. And so obviously they had it way harder than, they had their own woes that they had to go through as well, as far as identity goes. And it was like, one of them, like we still talk every once in a while, but like one of them had told me that, he was out one time with a couple of friends, and this guy asked him, like, what is he? He's like, oh yeah, my mom is German, my dad is black, and he was just like, yeah, he's like, I just see you as black, was what the guy responded to him as. And he was like, that was his moment where he was like, he realized that even though he identifies with both and he sees both as him, like, to everybody else, he's not just, he's black, but he's like, yeah, he's like, I'm an American, I've been here all my life. And he's like, yeah, you're African American. Like, I guess that's the first time he actually really got hit with that hyphen, and it made him really aware of what was, like, how he was viewed. And so from that point, like, he really started just reevaluating, what it means to be an American and how he is viewed by America at large.
All right, so we were supposed to record yesterday, but we got railroaded by Atlanta.
Great show.
Which is, I want to talk about Atlanta for a little bit, because it is a very dope show.
Yes.
And I say that as someone who's not the biggest fan of Donald Glover. I am thoroughly enjoying his show.
I mean,
the guy's talented, man. He just needed that chance to show people, man.
Mike, you're from the Atlanta area, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is it realistic?
Yo, I got so many questions about that. Like, yo, is it really like yeah, it's real talk. Atlanta's the South. Like, people, even though it's like basically like New Hollywood down here, it's the South. Like, you still get people yelling around, like randomly talking to you, having conversations with you anywhere. I've been to Texas or whatever, had people just like give me a whole conversation, and I'm just like, yo, I really don't care. But yeah, it's definitely Atlanta, though. Special location. That JR Crickets in the third episode, I think I've probably been, not third episode, first episode, I've been to. The Zestos I've been to as well. It's really kind of surreal, because our city has always been kind of like in the background. It's always like the city that's like always been mentioned or reference to, but it's never had like a stage to where it's like the focal point of whatever you're watching or whatever. You know what I mean? It's always LA, it's always New York. Yeah, and even though you might get like a Tyler Perry movie, often, oh, we're in Atlanta right now. It's like, oh yeah, Atlanta or whatever. Or you see like Underground and like Underground Atlanta and dang, what's that Ice Cube Kevin Hart movie called again?
Ride Along.
Yeah. It's like, okay, yeah, I recognize that. They're obviously shooting in Atlanta. I was on a set on I think Civil War when they were shooting downtown or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, they're in Atlanta, but they're probably like somewhere in DC or whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they don't make it discernible that it's actually Atlanta.
Right. So it's like it's so kind of, it's really dope to actually see your city, the city I was born and raised in, and was contemplating leaving after college. It's just like, yo, this is sick. I love this city. It's like really just dope, and he really does get the spirit down. You get to see the hood in the episode where they went out to that dinner. Him and his baby mom went out to the dinner or whatever. I can't tell you how many times I've been in that situation where I'm looking for parking, because there's no parking downtown. Big ass city, no parking. And it's like, and the dude, like random, like, I don't know, maybe homeless dudes be like trying to hook you up with stuff. Like, yo, man, they parking right over here, dog. You can go and get you the spot. Just give me like 10. I got you. It's like, nah, I'm good, homie. It feels authentic, and I can tell. You can tell Donald and his brother and his cousin, I think, that's also helping him write and do the series, is really helping him kind of get that spirit of the city down. Because I've never seen Atlanta like this outside of like a music video or something like that, So it's pretty dope. And then the show itself, its writing in itself is dope. So it's like a combo package of like dope shit.
It reminds me a lot of Louis.
I've read that comparison. Yeah,
and it's not always funny, and it's not always any one thing, but it's always good. Like, it always has your attention, and like weird shit happens just because sometimes some weird shit happens because he's in a big city like that.
Yeah, like dude getting the Nutella sandwich. I've never been offered a sandwich on MARTA, but I can honestly believe that has happened. I've seen some stuff riding on MARTA back when I used to get on the bus. So it wasn't this plausible. Just like, I'm just glad it never happened, because I'm like, yo, if a nigga told me to sandwich on the bus, I'm getting off at the next stop. I'm like, yo, you know what? I'm gonna just catch this like the next. Wait 40 minutes for MARTA to come over, and then it's pretty good. Pretty good. Love it.
It's really good, man. Like probably my favorite show of 2016.
Definitely. And I don't even watch TV like that no more.
Yeah,
So,
me neither.
It's got me out of my current CW phase where I'm just watching like Arrow, Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, or Walking
Please
Dead.
stop, Mike.
Those
Mike, please stop.
struggle TV.
Look, don't. Oh yeah, you were the one that was always talking mad crap about Arrow. Yeah, I remember.
It's a struggle ass show. That budget be getting slashed in half every season, dog. Like right now, they're running on bubblegum and hopes and prayers.
You know what? You know what I say about Arrow? I say nothing.
That's all anybody can say about Arrow.
I love it to death. I don't care what anyone says, to be honest.
Why? Everything about it is bad. There's like no redeeming features in that. There are no redeeming qualities in that show at all.
I disagree with that, but I'm not gonna.
You
argue.
really don't have to go in on Arrow like this.
I disagree, but I'm gonna hold it to myself because I know where that can go. I know how when you talk about your favorite like shows or whatever, it goes down like a whole. It can be like the most crap show, and you like defend it, and you know it's crap, but you'll still defend it. I'm not going down that route. I'm a better man than that. I'm wholesome, so I'm gonna keep it to myself.
Okay. Oh crap! Just saying though.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched 2 seasons.
Oh, okay.
Well, 3 actually.
You watched a third? Why you didn't quit? That's the bad season. Why you ain't quit then?
That shit tainted it for me, yo. Like I was like, I'm never watching this again, yo.
That's where everybody that says they actually stopped. If you watch season 4, I don't think I think you have a problem after that. If you don't really just dislike this show, you have a problem. I don't understand people that hate watch stuff or hate do anything. It's like, yo, just stop.
Well, Angelus, you do that shit a lot where you watch things you don't really like for far too long.
Say what?
Don't you do that like pretty frequently where you watch something and then don't like it but continue watching it?
Yeah. I mean, I do it for a couple of reasons. Like number one is so that when people ask me, well, did you watch this part? I'm like, yep, I sure did. It still sucked. Like I can be objectionable in my hatred for it. Like, yo, yeah, I watched all of that shit and it still sucks. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be like, oh, yeah, I watched a YouTube clip. Like, nah, fam, I watched all 23 episodes of your shitty show, and it's garbage.
Your favorite sucks.
I don't have the time to do that. I just can't. It's
but, like,
you know,
like, there are some shows, like, where it gets so bad, I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to go check out, like, The Blacklist, right? I got to, like, season 2, and I was just like, yeah, nah. And I have never gone back. My friend's like, yo, have you been watching The Blacklist? I'm like, nah, fam, I haven't. It shit sucks. And he's like, yo, man, you just gotta. Nah, I'm not. I'm just not gonna do that, my guy. Like, my time is precious. I'm not doing that. Nah, it's all right. But like, I always try to like watch or listen to things even if I don't like it, just so I can be objectional when I'm debating with people as to why I don't like it, so that they don't hit me with that, oh, you didn't listen to this part or watch this part. It's like, no, I actually sat down, watched it without, watched the full block of whatever it was, and I still came to the conclusion at the end of it that it was not really good. Like I said, like podcasts ago, like episodes ago, I went to go see Batman vs Superman. Like, dude, like 30 minutes into that shit, I was trying to check out so bad. My friend I was with me, she was on her phone on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And like my boy was texting me, he's like, yo, that movie was trash. He was like, but I was mad that the girl I was with, she was on her Facebook. So I was like, yeah, my friend I'm with, like, she's on her Facebook too. I'm completely fine with this, dog. Like, this is just a waste of time. But I watched the full thing so that when people are like, why don't you like it? I can tell you exactly why I didn't like it. And you can be like, well, did you watch this scene? I'm like, yep, did not. That was a cool part. Everything else around it sucked. Like, I can be really objectional and rational about my argument. But yeah, Atlanta's dope, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely recommend it. Can't wait the second season. The second season is also getting 10 episodes, which I'm just like,
yeah.
Really? But you know what I've learned about after watching Netflix for the last few years is that
I was gonna bring that up.
It's like, you know what? I'll take 10 episodes because sometimes you go through like Netflix shows and you're like, bruh, this is too long.
Netflix is notorious for that.
You need to cut some of this down because you're just dragging at this point. Daredevil has a big problem with that. When I watched that, especially
all of the Marvel properties did, man.
Jessica Jones really had that problem. They had a few good potential climaxes. I'm just like, yeah, y'all should just let that go. That's why I was glad to Get Down was about like 6 episodes or whatever too. It was like it didn't drag for me. So, yeah, the 30 minutes. At first, I didn't like how it was 30 minutes either, but because we saw it in an hour pretty much when it premiered. So it's like, yeah, okay, we need this an hour, man. This is dope. But then you kind of get a feel for like the 30 minutes. It's just like vignettes of their life at this point. You know, you're just getting vignettes every 30 minutes. They're just like a whole block of what's going on, like you would get like an Empire or like a Power or something like that. You know, so it works with the style of the show. So I've kind of gotten accustomed to the format of the show and everything. Yeah, so it's dope. I recommend anybody who is looking for something to watch, go watch Atlanta. I always mixed it. I always call it ATL.
Yeah, I did that too.
I do. I'm like,
I called it ATL the other day.
But then I'm like, this ain't T.I. and Big Boy or whatever.
I mean, go watch ATL as well. That's a pretty solid.
I actually did like that movie a lot. There was one part of me and my friend we were debating about. I was like, yeah, I just don't like the part where T.I. stops talking to Nunu because he found out she was rich. I was like, if that was me and I found out you were rich, I'm like, oh, okay, word. This is dope.
I mean, both Nunu now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, well, damn. Yeah, I'm actually going to get out the hood. This is lit.
I done made it.
Plot point, though. It's like,
it really was.
He ripped the chain off her neck over there. It's like,
you ain't real. Like, no, she's pretty real, fam. She's rich, nigga.
Like, she's real rich.
Keep David as a dad? What you mean?
But yeah, like, I think I'm very happy that Atlanta's starting to get this kind of representation. And like that, and the fact that, you know, we are not focusing, but we're starting to have more shows where it's not about like the cliche black struggle, you know, like of, oh, like everybody's on drugs and like there's a shootout every episode, or, you know, things like that. But at the same time, I like that, you know, Glover, he's keeping the show very real because he is still talking about like the problems that we have as black men and women, but he's also injecting that humor into it. And it's not that over the top, beach in the face, Friends type humor, which is the most annoying type of crap to me. But it's like that, it's that subdued humor that you're watching it, and it's so real that you can't help but laugh at the situation or what they said, because it's like that's something that you can actually relate to. It's something that, you know, a conversation or incident that you've had or something of that nature. And like, yo, I understand that. Like, I identify with that. Like going to Zestos and things like that, you know, when he was like arguing with the woman that you can't get the kids meal. I've never had a woman tell me I can't get the kids meal, but I've had people in Zestos like, you can't get this meal, like, you know, you can't do this combo, create this combo together. And it's like, it's on the freaking thing. Why can't I do it? You know, like those small type.
Or getting that new manager to think that she just runs everything, so your order just like this is a certain kind of. You're just like, yo, really?
Exactly.
This is how you're gonna do this? Okay.
I like how real it is.
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't try to like make this fictional version of Atlanta. He's giving you the real version of Atlanta, right. And then by proxy, he's giving you what it's like to be a black man or a black woman living in like the South. Like, really, like, because like even though I'm not in Atlanta, like I've been to Atlanta, but even though I'm not there, like when I used to live in South Carolina, like all of that was just like something that I readily identified with. Like immediately I was like, yo, I've had these situations. We've been to like Zestos, like we had Zestos everywhere in South Carolina. You know, it's like all of that, like, it's just stuff that I can easily identify with way more than like, you know, Friends or Seinfeld or Frasier, all those other shows where it's like, it's so far removed from my life and things that I've gone through. It's just like, I don't understand why people like it.
I think what Seinfeld and Frasier do is it's for, I think for black people specifically, is that it's surreal. It's like, is this how white people really act? These niggas is crazy. You know, I think that's where I think I get my humor from Frasier and Seinfeld and Friends. It's like, these white folks is crazy. Like, really? This is a problem? You know?
I think that is what it is for me as well. And it's like, and it's not to say that, you know, for quote unquote white humor is lost on me, because it's like, no, like I love The Office. You know, that TV show cracks me up, but it's just like, I don't know, that like that city type of humor that they do in those shows, where like it's a bunch of rich people who don't have any jobs. Like I've never seen them work ever, you know, and it's just like they have these lavish apartments and penthouses, and like, what do you do for a living? This is never expanded upon at all. It's just like, we just assume you work, you know, and it's like you spend your whole day in the apartment and you're just like making jokes and like the audience is laughing. I'm just like, this is the weirdest shit ever. Like, no, this is dumb.
So is that why Tommy didn't have no job?
But I mean,
Tommy.
Who?
Martin.
Who the hell's Tommy?
Damn.
Oh, Martin, sorry. No, because you were talking about Seinfeld. You talking about some Tommy, like, I don't watch freaking
that's what I was
Seinfeld,
like,
dude.
Is that why they didn't give him no job? Like just to parody that one character and like every comedy just like pops in for like no reason. It just seems to have all this like fancy stuff. Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Like that's how I've always saw Tommy. That's how I've always saw Tommy's character.
To.
Like I can't but the thing is though, like we can relate to that because like I'm pretty sure everybody has had a friend at some point who didn't have a job. And it's like that's what made Martin funny. You know, we knew what Martin and Gina did. We knew what they all did, but Tommy could never keep a steady job, and we all know somebody like that at some point in our lives. And it's like, oh yeah, like that dude or that woman is Tommy. Like that's relatable to us. But Seinfeld's like none of y'all work. Like, but you got all this nice stuff.
Like Jerry doing his stand up or whatever, and then occasionally we have George at his baseball job or whatever, and it's like okay, and they just get on these like whirlwind adventures out of nowhere. Like, how do you fund any of this?
Yeah,
so yeah, I got you.
Like they be walking down the street and all of a sudden they run into their doppelgangers. I'm like, bro, what? Like, is this what happens in? Is this what happens in your white people? Like,
it's like when Bart Simpson saw himself outside of the window.
Yeah. Word.
Yeah.
Like, I think that Atlanta's a breath of fresh air for for African Americans, especially. Like, we've got a lot of shows like that now. You know, like you got Blackish, you got Fresh Off the Boat. Like, it's so dope to see like these kind of shows popping up more and more and more. Like another good show that I used to watch a lot was the George Lopez show. Like,
yeah.
I don't like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm pretty sure like any minority can relate to the George Lopez show. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to say white people can't, because obviously there are probably hundreds of millions of people who can, but it's just like the things that George and his family went through on that show is so relatable. And it's like, yo, like, I understand that. Same thing with Fresh Off the Boat. It's like, these shows that are putting minority families front and center, they resonate so with the minority communities because it's like we finally see, number one, we've got representation on screen. Number two, they're talking and doing things that we all go through in some form or fashion that I just don't feel like a lot of times is really there for the more, you know, white-centered shows. And like, again, I'm not saying that, you know, there is no humor in them or they're not funny because, like, again, I love The Office. Parks and Rec is like a classic to me, but it's just like we don't have enough of the shows that make life relatable and can be seen through our lens, but still have some comedy elements to it.
So everyone go watch Atlanta.
Yes, Tuesdays, 10 p.m. Eastern.
Everyone watch Atlanta, and then everyone go rent ATL.
Just ignore T.I. when he gets angry. Like, just
get the fuck off my porch.
Yeah, I was just like, bruh, talking to her all kinds of ways. I was like, what is going on?
Oh,
I'd have been like, look, I need a car.
All right, so the next thing I want to talk about, a couple days ago, the debates. The very first debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I don't think we really even need to spend a lot of time on this.
Just hit him with the highlights.
It's basically the same old story over and over again. She isn't that personable, not that likable, and he's lying a lot.
A lot. Shit, he was on a new level.
He was
yeah, it's pretty wild how he could straight up lie in a very binary fashion too. It's not like, oh, he said 10 million, but it was really 9.5 million. It's straight up like, I didn't do this, when in fact he did very recently. he
lied and then explained exactly what he did. And I would sit there like, nigga, I cannot lie like that through my teeth if I tried. Like, there is no way I could do that to anyone. Like, I don't understand how people just fall for it. It's
surreal because
logical liar, yo.
It's absurd to see this dude who is very close to being the president, who everyone knows is lying. Like, I'm pretty sure the people who support him even know he's not always on point with what he's saying. And that's scary that white men are angry enough to still support him as a candidate.
Like, I mean, because like people continue to act like Trump has, like, he was saying things that Republicans don't stand for. Like, he just said about dog whistles. So now what's going to happen is they're going to double down on this shit he's been saying. They're just going to reapply the dog whistles and just continue on what they've been doing. It's like,
And it's too bad for Romney because he probably would have won if he was going against Hillary this go around.
Yeah, but he went against Obese.
Yeah, threw his hat in too early.
He did.
He's probably pissed as fuck.
Guys.
He wasted all his money.
Like, honestly, like, if you step back and look at the whole thing, like, from, like, a completely objectional, rational standpoint, this shit makes no sense at all. You've got one person who is basically been in politics in some form or fashion, fighting for, like, various battles throughout her career to try to better America, and then you've got another dude who is quite possibly a sociopath and a pathological liar. And it's like, who's an entertainer. Like, he's a quote unquote business mogul who does shady dealings, is racist as hell, has a huge history of being racist and sexist and all the other ists that you can be. And he is actually legitimately, like, on the precipice of becoming president, and he is doing quote unquote well. He's got 40% of the vote against an actual real politician.
You know, we just need for the next 100 years or so, men just cannot vote. Because if you look at the breakdown of history, women seem to have it.
Especially black women. Like, I always follow black women when it comes to politics. Like, if a black woman says, like, the black women are saying they're voting for somebody, that's who the fuck I'm voting for. I don't even need to research it.
And that you could Google this. This is not some bullshit.
You really can. Yeah, it's like, I'm not just making a joke. I'm being, like, dead ass serious. Like, black women have always voted, like, they've always been the most consistent voters, and they've always voted for the most progressive legislation that you can find. So, like, I always look at it like, I do two things when it comes to voting. Like, if I'm, like, unaware, like, especially when it comes to, like, state level stuff. Like, number one, I look at the demographics of their supporters. Like, if your supporters, like, majority white, I'm probably not going to vote for you. Number one. And number two, I look for where black women are voting. Like, I ask all of my black female friends, like, yo, who are you voting for and why? And it's like, bet. Like, now let me get educated and up to date on this person, and I'm going from there. And it's because, like, black women are the ones who basically are the only ones who are actually paying attention and fucking, like, understand what's going on. And, like, it's crazy that, right, like, I don't like Hillary. I'm not the biggest Hillary fan. And my reasons for not liking Hillary are, like, honestly, is just because I don't like, she just rose me the wrong way. And that's a stupid reason not to like somebody, especially somebody who's going to run your country. I completely understand that, because I always say that. At the same time, I say people who say things like, oh, you know, this president doesn't like somebody I can have a beer with. I think those people are weird. It's like, motherfucker, they're trying to run a country and I have a beer with you. Shut up. But it's like, it just kills me that Trump is doing even as well as he is. Like, even though he has no minority support at all, like, it just kills me that there's that big of a segment out there who do not really understand. Like, I feel like they're just completely oblivious to why they're voting. Vast majority of them are voting, like, let's flat out admit it, because it's some racist bullshit. Like, it really is. Like, he says things that make them feel good to be American, which, like Reagan, but at the very same time, they're very, very hazardous to the rest of us, you know, who do not share that lack of melanin, you know, like, and so. I don't know, like, this election just bugs me out just for the simple fact that he's doing so well, despite the fact he is so unqualified in every aspect. And what kills me is everybody's like, well, Hillary's unqualified too. And it's like, we haven't had a more qualified person to be the president since forever. Like, and I'm not trying to insult Obama, but he hasn't had the number of years of experience that she's had, but he's qualified as well. But I like, dude, if Hillary isn't qualified to be president, then shit, we should just be like a war-torn fucking third world country and just free for all. Like, fuck it. Like, because it's crazy to me.
I think that's a good example of the sexism that's going on in this election. Because if you switch their resumes, Hillary would be fucking laughed off every stage she went on. Like, who's this person who, like, owns hotels and shit think they could be president? They would have tore her apart in the media.
I mean, he flat out admitted that he doesn't pay taxes. Like, at the very same time, talks about he loves the vets. Like, dude, you don't pay taxes. How are you loving the vets? Because they got no money from you, fam. Like, what? come on. And then like people, I think, see, like my thing has always been this, right? Like being a Republican in America, like being like running as a conservative Republican, it's so much easier than being like running as a progressive liberal Democrat, right? Because as a Republican, you can just basically use sound bites to get your way all the way to the top. You can just say stupid shit like "Make America Great" or "We're not great" or the Muslims or the blacks, things like that, and like you've got a certain segment of America who's going like, "Oh my God, yes, this is awesome! Like this is all we need to hear." And then you got the other side. And those are the
people who vote too.
Yeah, and you got the other side where it's like, you know, you can't use those sound bites because people are going to like explain, like, please expand on this, and you can't convince that other side of these things because they don't care about your long speeches. They just want you to make them feel good. Like that's all they want, and this is like, you can't condense politics and policies and changes that you want to implement into sound bites. Like it's damn near impossible, because if you try to, what you say is going to get misconstrued and then it's going to blow back up in your face, you know? Like if Bernie and Hillary just flat out said, you know, education is going to be free, like, and never expanded upon it, they're going to get so fucked during the primaries. Like, as soon as the debates kick in, they're going to be like, how? And then it's just going to, you have to be able to come with it. You have to be able to explain your position, what you believe in and what you stand for. Whereas Trump, as we've seen, like, so far, he didn't know what the hell he was talking about during the entire debate. Half of America's like, oh, he won or he did great. Like, dude, what kind of crack are you smoking? Please let me know so that I can sell it. Like, oh my God, like, it's ridiculous. And like people always think I'm joking when I say this shit, but I've been trying to move to Canada for the last fucking year, man, because at this point in time, bro, like Canada is what America aspires to be, and it's ridiculous. Like it's killing me. Like they're on track to make education very affordable. Like in the province of Ontario, it's going to be free. What the hell? Marijuana is going to be legal nationwide. Like, dude,
dope.
What the fuck? And I'm not saying that so much as for like, oh, yay, marijuana, get to smoke. I mean, like the implications that it has on the African American or the Canadian African Canadian community, the African Canadian community. You know, like, dude, that's like, I'm like, even looking at statistics, like even up there, they're arrested at a disproportional rate. It's nowhere near as bad as us, but it's still pretty bad. But that's one major tenet of it that's going away that we can't even, you know, get done here in America. Like DEA, the DEA still schedule marijuana as a Schedule 1 substance. It's like, are you fucking kidding me? Like, what are you talking about? Like, this is ridiculous. And we have one politician who wants to change that, and we have another one who's like, who cares? It doesn't affect you. By you, I mean white people, so who cares? And it's mind-boggling, man. Like, it's frustrating, and it's just like, I gotta go.
So if you're listening and you're not a black woman, find some black women around you and ask them about politics and who they're voting for. Because as a group, they seem to be the most consistently on point.
They really are. They're so under-cherished, man. I swear they're underappreciated.
Way back when it was still Bernie versus Hillary, first sign I knew Bernie was in trouble was when every black woman that popped up on my timeline on Twitter was not with Bernie. And I was like, well, there's a reason for this. After the fact, after Hillary had won, you saw large groups of black women begrudgingly supporting Hillary. They were the first group to like, well, I think they started the hashtag, I guess I'm with her.
Yeah, I've seen the hashtag.
Like, so that it gave me like a look into the future of how America in general was gonna take the news. The best thing that happened to Trump's debate odds was Lester Holt being the moderator. He was just letting them run wild.
At first I was hating it, but looking back, I was like, that was probably the best thing that Lester could do. Like, he basically gave Trump rope to hang himself every time. Just like, oh, well, if you want to hang yourself, go for it. Like, because imagine if, like, he was able to stop Trump before Trump went on his tirades, right? Like, people would have been like, oh, wow, you know, Trump did pretty well. But because Lester let this dude talk for like 10 extra minutes, Trump came off looking like a complete idiot. And what helped it was, like, Hillary at no point even engaged him. Like, he would be yelling at her and she would just continue talking, looking at the audience, and it was just like, dude, he came off looking crazy as hell.
I actually changed the show's Twitter handle. It's now So Well Spoken Pod. And if you want any information on the show, just go to sowellspoken.com. It's all there. All the past episodes, our Twitter handles. I think that's about all we have on that site, but that's all you need regarding this show is at sowellspoken.com.
What episode is this?
39.
39 of them, man. So close, man. We just need
39, like 10 good ones. We're doing pretty good.
The first one's like the first one. 10 we had were so struggle.
Oh man, the first like 10 episodes of this shit was just like first of all, there's like 6 of us there. It's like 6 people just laughing and yelling at each other. No real structure.
It was pretty struggle time for the So Well Spoken podcast. And the mic quality was horrible.
Mic quality was in the garbage. Man, people were dropping out mid-episode to like go get lunch and shit.
That was happening a lot too.
Dude, there was one time I left in the middle of it and kept it recording while I left.
Like on the subject of podcasts, like there are a couple that I've been listening to lately that are really good. The Black Table was always a good one. There's one that a couple of my friends actually created. My friends Moris and Alicia. It's called Parental Awesomeness. Basically, it's this podcast that's really geared towards, for lack of a better word, parents who are like socially aware. Like she's Latina, he's Black, and it's just like it's really dope to get their perspective on raising kids in America. That's another good one.
Look at these free plugs.
Free plugs, right? They're my friends, so I had to plug them, man. Like they're really awesome, and they're really doing some good shit.
What was the name of their podcast?
Parental Awesomeness.
All right, I'll check that out.
Yeah, it's really good. I think everybody should check it out. They've got 2 episodes up, so yeah, they talk about things like mental health, rape culture, things like that. So yeah, definitely check them out.
Man, my mind spins just imagining trying to raise a kid in America right now.
Dude, I'm like being dead ass serious. Like that's one of the main reasons why I actually want to like immigrate to Canada is because it's like I want to give my child like a really good life, and it's like without the undue burden of like fucking not being bloody rich. Like
Mm-hmm.
I you shouldn't have to go in debt in order to get health care or to make sure that your family is well, cared for in that aspect, or to send your child to college. Like, yeah, I don't want my kid to have like a bunch of debt, and I don't want to take on a bunch of debt just so they can get a college degree, just so they can maybe get the opportunity to make it into the middle class. Because like degree doesn't guarantee you shit, and it's just like it just increases your chances. And it's like at this point in time, like it's almost not benefit. Like it's almost like a deterrent to going to college. It's like, for instance, right, UCF, like out of state tuition's $21,000 a year, in state's $9,000. It's like, yo, you're spending so much money just to get your bachelor's, and it's like, for what? You know what I mean? It's like you're gonna owe so much money that it's not even really worth it.
Go to Canada. That's the lesson from this episode. Take out a loan and go to Canada, and then don't pay the loan.
I'm just saying though, like for like the last 2 years, I've really been trying to go to Canada. Like I've got my passports, I've applied for a visa twice, got denied twice, but yeah.
Damn, you got denied twice? Do you have like priors?
No, it's just like, for instance, like if you have anything that's out of like the ordinary on your like not like if you got like debt, right? Even a little bit of debt denies you sometimes. It's like, what the fuck, bro? Like, wow. Who doesn't have debt? Like
Canadians, I guess.
Apparently, but like yeah, and it's like I wanted to like immigrate over to Ontario, Providence, so like Toronto, that area, and it's just like looking for a tech position there, like at a startup, things like that. They're not a lot, and it's just like, well, shit. Like apparently, that's a very much American thing. It's like the startup culture, and so it's like I could work for your federal government, but then I got to get clearance to work for the Canadian government. That you got to be a citizen to get. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a catch-22. What the fuck? It's just about giving better opportunities to my future, like my offspring and things like that. So yeah, I gotta learn how to drive in the snow, so that's gonna suck.
Angelus is gonna be Canadian African American. All right, I'll see you guys for the next episode of So Well Spoken.
Yeah, I'm done. We're gonna leave on that.